Hello everyone, it's Zakiziel here, and today I'm reacting to Lamenters story by Warrior Tier. The guy does great work on these stories, and I have thoroughly enjoyed both Gene Stiller's story and Ogren's story. Ogren's story actually nearly made me cry. But without further ado, let us begin. And as always, I highly recommend checking out his channel and subscribing to it if you haven't already, and there will be a link to the original video in the description box below.
Do you know the word? Lament. Like many great words, it followed us from Terra. Do you know what it means? That word, lament. It means to mourn, to regret, to remember. We lamented. I lament.
He sounds so worn down and just burnt out, which is understandable from just all the stuff the Lamenters go through.
After our founding, when we were graced with our ceramite plate, our heraldry, and our name, we saw the tumultuous events of the 21st founding.
The cursed founding.
We saw the traitors. We knew that our destiny lay elsewhere, so we did what a fleet-based legion does, and we flew. To the far reaches of the Imperium my brothers and I traveled. How those infinite gulfs between the stars parted before us. I could not tell you how many worlds we saved, how many trillions our actions have aided, directly or otherwise. With permission from our father, Sanguinius, we spread the only thing worth spreading: peace. Indeed, we did so through war.
Ah yes, spreading the Emperor's peace.
Sometimes bloody, brutal, and inhumane war. But to look to the means and criticize them can render the ends broken. I can tell you of the people I myself aided. I can tell you of the cancers cured by the Narthesium I wore on my own arm. I can tell you of the worlds I saw, the worlds I helped rebuild. I can tell you of the scent of the bread baked with pink wheat in the high world of Lonos, and how even now I can still smell that bread. How I remember handing it to the poor, the hungry, and the brave. I can tell you of the wine gifted to me by the Lady Regent of Norn. Wine made from fruit grown in her family's orchards, in the same orchards that have flowered for over 900 years. That bottle is still somewhere in the Imperium, though I do not know where. I cannot tell you of so much more, for those tales are lost. The records, those tablets, scrolls, and recordings are simply gone. Gone to the place where all tales of heroes must go. Cast to the ethereal winds of the universe itself. I could tell you of our finest hour. I say the following without ego and pray I do not seem arrogant. I believe all should know of Corillia. Many of my former brothers in arms called us cursed. I do not consider such a descriptor to be apt or just. Being an apothecary, I work with only what I know and can see.
Honestly, with the amount of stuff that happens to the Lamenters, I would say they're cursed. Probably not cursed in the way that the other Space Marine chapters meant it when they say they're cursed, like with the cursed founding. But cursed in the sense that it seems as though all their luck just vanished, and only the most unfortunate things happen to them, considering the sheer number of times that they've nearly been wiped out. Honestly, I subscribe to the idea that Old Man Rex presented at one point, that all of their luck would just went to Caiaphas Cain. He might be the physical manifestation of the Lamenters' lost luck.
However, not all are as I am. I learned that the hard way. The rumors of our legion being cursed spread like wildfire on the splinter-bark plains of Janasik. Thus, within a century, the rumors stuck. I admit, we had our share of bad fortune. There were battles we lost. A warrior who cannot admit his losses doesn't deserve to speak of his victories. Our chapter master was fond of saying that. I was coaching humbleness and truth. I hear his voice still, whispered sometimes on the wind, or echoing down an abandoned street. I'm losing my course, I apologize. I admit when a battle seemed certain, something would occur to strip that certainty. Yes, we often knew the taste of the ash of loss on our tongues.
I like that he doesn't talk down to the viewer like how a lot of Space Marines will do when addressing humans who are not augmented like them, which is also somewhat understandable considering their status as the Emperor's avenging angels and whatnot, and the Emperor's fury.
But we also knew the glory of victory, of honor, and justice. I tell you of the rumor because it's important.
Oh, was that an Eldar Craftworld flag just now that he was holding? Reminded me of one. I think, was it Ilton, maybe?
Understand how things are the way they are. Remember, means and ends. Corillia. How rarely I think of it now. In the 38th millennium, we were called homeward by the High Lords. You see, the Eye of Terror, that dreaded smear in the skies of so many worlds, had begun to vomit forth its insidious children once more. This time, however, no mere rabble of babbling sycophants appeared. Draped in the armor of the cowardly, armed with the weapons of a traitor and pulling hell behind him, Abaddon in his Black Crusade came forth. I will not call him the Despoiler, for I believe that to give our enemies titles only emboldens them to further their wickedness.
Failbadon the Armless. I'm pretty sure that's a title that most people would certainly love to give him. And one which certainly wouldn't be emboldening anything. Also, I just realized, actually, that was the Lamenters chapter banner that I saw, and not the Bealton one. I saw the heart on it and immediately just thought Bealton.
By the time we arrived, Abaddon had already burned a dozen worlds to ash, and offered just as many to his sorcerers, allowing demonic forces to claim billions as slaves or toys. We are not a chapter remembered for its wrath or hate. But trust me when I say this, we all hated him. We hated with an intensity reserved usually for love. By the time we reached the Segmentum, he had destroyed 2 entire chapters of Astartes. Both, coincidentally, named the Celestial Swords. May they find the peace that is earned by only the purest of warriors.
I wonder if the Celestial Lords have any relation to these Celestial Lions.
Let me say a name to you. The Mortificators. You probably don't know who they are. That's no great loss. Their ranks are filled with warriors chosen from a night world. A small, savage place that does not breed humans. It breeds animals who just happen to be human. The Mortificators are a successor chapter of the Ultramarines. That is a fact that still surprises me to this day. Again, you ask yourself, what all this has to do with anything, correct? Well, the Mortificators were to hold Corillia alongside us. They were to defend its 9 billion population, its hab towers, its scolums, its refineries, all of it. From
And they
Abaddon
turned their
and his
back,
Black
didn't they?
Crusade. But we had spent 3 weeks building defenses, training humans and doing all we could. We received word that these noble sons of Gilliman, these successors to the legends of old McCrag,
Used to fight against a cursed
helping
actor.
those 9 billion people. They would not defend those half towns, those scolms, or those refineries, because my brothers and I were cursed. They abandoned us. They abandoned the soldiers, the mothers and fathers, the grandparents, all of them. In the name of superstition, they sentenced so many to death. We did the best we could. If you have it within you, please believe me. We spent 6 weeks fighting. 6 weeks! So much is a blur. So much isn't even there. So much more isn't even a blur. I could list the names of the 804 starters who fell. I could tell you the color of their eyes, how they kept their hair, what jokes they laughed at. Or, I can tell you this. Each of them died for something greater than any of us. They fought for peace. They fought for a peace that Abaddon sought to choke from the citizens of the world.
You know, among those Space Marine chapters who actually defend the Imperium's people, such as the Salamanders and the Lamenters, I rather like that, partly because it's like, sure, human life is cheap in the 41st millennium and all that, but in a sense, you can't really have the Imperium without its people. Having a million worlds doesn't really mean much if no one lives on them.
When all others turned away, we stood defiant, knowing the cost, gladly willing to pay it. After 6 weeks, the sons of the Great Khan and the sons of Gilliman appeared in the skies. The Multiplicator's dereliction of duty had caused 4 billion deaths. Do I believe they could have saved every soul?
Not a chance.
No, I do not. Do I know that in combat, a single blade can change the tide of war? We left Corillia broken, with barely enough hands to turn our fleet outward toward the Gulf once more. I had to be subdued and forcibly sedated because I refused to leave. I was not alone. I believe we all would have laid our weapons down that day and stayed on Corillia. But we turned our heads and flew into the dark. We were gone for a century. That time spent in silence, meditation, remembering, mourning, lamenting. 2,000 years after Corillia, we were called on again. This time joining a shield made of 4 chapters, the Maelstrom Wardens. We were to Flitterern, being not much more than an early warning system. Fate, however, had a different idea. It was there we met the Astral Claws. No amount of recounted heroism will ever lead you to what the Astral Claws are today. The Red Corsairs, they call themselves now. Their leader has been reduced to a madman, supposedly a demon prince.
Hey, Huron Blackheart, yeah.
True. I do not wish to imagine Luft Heron, that roguish, charming, and noble warrior is that. Huron Blackheart and the Red Corsairs are not the Astral Claws. They cannot be. The Claws died on Badab. What a foolish waste. Miscommunication. Misunderstanding. The Luft believed the Imperial rulers on Badab were not only corrupt, but inept and truly lost. I do not support his rebellion, knowing what it led to, but I do understand it. I admit that by this point he was a different being. Too many decades spent fighting demon incursions in the dark spaces of Space Hulks. Too many lost brothers. Too many ignored cost. Too many ignored pleas for aid. We saw his homeworld, the world of his...
He's long into the abyss will gaze back.
Legion being ill-treated and acted foolishly. The truth you won't hear is as follows. Aaron begged and pleaded for assistance. He knew that the Wardens were too weak to hold back the horror. He begged for a crusade for support. He held others back, offering greater tithes if his pleadings were answered. That was the log that broke Barakon's back. Barakon refused to believe an Astartes would behave in such a way. What a trade prince knows of a warrior's life, I do not know. Heron wouldn't pay, and because he wouldn't pay, others had to. Remember this. Heron refused to pay tithes to those who wouldn't do the right thing. But his handwritten documents of succession guaranteed a bolstered bulwark against the horrors. Some traitor he was at the start, eh? Willing to defend the Imperium, just not willing to pay the extortionate rates of those trade guilds and the Mechanicus. I regret what happened. As do all the souls who witnessed tragedy. I am thankful that I was not there at the fall of the Firehawks. The sons of Vulcan carry with them the flame of humanity. A misunderstanding calls the Firehawks to be fired upon and killed. I remember my brother Shafi telling me what had happened. I remember how pale he was. It didn't take long for the news of the bloodshed and misunderstanding to spread. It quickly became a treachery and rebellion. My brothers and I were considered renegades, and when the end of the Badab Rebellion came, we surrendered to Imperial justice. Justice. Remember that word.
Yep, some justice, considering that their only sin was trying to defend Imperium. And it just happened to be that one of the chapters that they allied with, and who actually were willing to associate with them and showed them some degree of camaraderie and respect, ended up turning traitor.
We were cast off again into the space between the worlds to spend 100 years in crusade, atoning for our sins.
After what is by this point the second decimation. I don't mean decimation in the literally like what happened with Perturabo and every 10th person was killed by the other 9.
We faced the dreaded mindless horde of the Tyranids who, with time, decimated our numbers. And then the end came for us. All things must end. So did we. The death of my chapter saw the loss of perhaps the greatest breakthrough ever made by an apothecary. My surgeon brothers and I had managed to fix the flaw in our gene seed. We had cured the Black Rage. You may know of the lies of the Inquisition, but do you know that because of them, the flaw of the Sons of the Blessed Angel may never be cured? Inquisitor Talorus betrayed not only my brothers, but also the Knights of the Raven and the Scythes of the Emperor. Our final death, the death of my chapter, came at the claws of a tendril of the dread High Fleet Kraken. It was there that I ended. After seeing so many of my kin consumed or ripped apart thanks to an Inquisitor, I knew it was over. And so did many others. In truth, I cannot tell you where many of us went. I know my dear friend Shiren was rumored lost in the void, but I see him sometimes, in my slumber. I do not believe he is dead, though I fear he may be. It's been many years since I've worn our plate, borne our heraldry, or seen another Astartes. You may have seen me on any number of so-called backwater worlds, helping those most in need. By modern imperial law, I'm a heretic, a traitor, a coward. I am none of those things. I simply seek to help. I seek to spread peace with what little power I still have. According to the codices of the Astartes, I'm deserving of execution. How can I do anything but help those I was conditioned to help? How can I not do what the Emperor made me do? And how can I do anything but mourn my lost brethren? Do you know what lament means? To lament. It means to mourn, to regret, to remember. I still see my long-lost friends. I still think fondly of the human families I aided. I can never forget Luf's broken hearts as he saw the Imperium's response to his actions. I remember a past future that will never be, one that lives on in my mind. I lament the losses of so many heroes and heroines, so many dreams and loves. But then again, what am I supposed to do? I was a lamenter once.
Even though that covered events that I already knew about, still found it to be an amazing story. Rather, the way he read it where you go through the perspective of one of the actual Lamenters, and just the fact that, similar to the Salamanders, they're just trying to help people. Although trying to help people in the Imperium can be pretty hit or miss, considering, well, the monster that is the Imperial bureaucracy, and the Inquisition, and the Ministorum. The specific, I remember correctly, he mentioned though about the Black Rage. The Lamenters were believed to be immune to it, but in reality, it was that they are resistant to it, and that it still happens, but just so rarely that for a long time, people just thought it didn't happen at all. But that aside, thank you for watching with me, and if you enjoyed, I'd appreciate if you like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, so this is Akiziel signing off. Have a wonderful day.